Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Trouble at the Border. Next, called the officer. A squat, mostly hairless biped approached the counter. It hefted a bag onto the countertop. Do you have any produce or food products? No, said the biped. Any animals or controlled substances? The officer went through the list by memory, having asked it hundreds of times a cycle for the last 10 annums. None that I know of, came the response. Did you pack your own bag, and has it been in your possession for the whole time that you've packed it? Yeah, but my wife put some socks and stuff in, but I saw her do it. Does that count? That's fine. Do you have any object, substance, or material known to the GLQ to cause harm to any member species? Don't think so, the biped said. The officer spun the bag around so that he could access the closure. Planet of origin, he placed his hands on the button. Earth. The officer snatched his hand away from the bag, his skin turning a slightly green color. Human? Yes, the biped replied, somewhat confused. The officer reached over and picked up the comm device. He pressed a quick dial key and held the device up to speak into it, turning away from the human on the other side of the counter. Sir, one of them is here. No, sir. I stopped before I opened it. He says no. Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. The officer deactivated the device and turned back to the human. Sir, you need to go with these officers here. As he spoke, two large gorilla rhinoceros-looking guards stepped up behind the man. He looked confused. This way, sir, one of them said, pointing towards a door in the wall some distance away. Leave the bag. The man turned to go, but before he walked away, he saw his original customs officer spraying down his hands, the counter, the comm device, and the man's bag with some sort of mister. An alien in a full biocontainment suit was slowly lifting every item out of the man's bag. Each item was placed under a scope of some sort of scanner, which would hum for a moment and then ding. The item was then placed in a plastic tote. The man sat as each garment was processed. The last thing the alien pulled from the suitcase was a small toiletries kit. The man said, It's just like a toothpaste and soap and stuff, nothing dangerous. The biocontained officer slowly opened the bag and began to lay out the items, one after another. A clear green bar of soap, a tube of toothpaste, a small bottle of shampoo, and a stick of deodorant. A toothbrush and an electric razor were the last items placed on the table, and the first to go into the scanner. Each was followed by a ding. The deodorant was tested. Another ding. The toothpaste was tested. This time, there was a buzz. After a moment, the officer in the containment suit placed the whole tube in a plastic jar and sealed it. The bar of soap met the same fate, being sealed in another separate jar. Finally, the shampoo was tested. The scanner hummed for what seemed like an eternity. And finally, a bell started ringing. The man looked around, confused. The officer pulled a pair of tongs from somewhere, grabbed the shampoo and put it in another jar. Then the jar was placed in a clear bag, which was sealed, and then finally the bag was placed in a metal case, which was again sealed. The officer went to the corner of the room and reached up to pull a ring hanging near the ceiling. A bluish liquid showered down on the biocontainment suit. After several minutes, the officer walked out the room, taking the specimen jars and case with him. Moments later, another customs officer came in. This one was human. She was smiling. The man looked at her for a moment and then said, Am I in trouble? Probably not. Most of the time, these are just run-of-the-mill accidental breaches. As long as your shampoo is really shampoo, you'll be fine. She sat opposite the man and leaned forward onto the small table where the tote with these belongings was. Turns out things like glycerin and fluoride are on the special access list, meaning you need a permit. Some of the stuff in shampoo is considered, it's not allowed. Highly toxic to about 85% of the flora and fauna of non-Earth planets. As long as it isn't straight toxins, you'll get charged a shipping fee and sent back to Earth. It's technically a controlled substance in the rest of the galaxy. Most humans who go out of the system for the first time don't know. I was just trying to go see my old Navy buddy. I didn't mean to cause problems, the man said, clearly nervous and apologetic. It's fine. That's why we have these protocols in place. That aside, the officer pulled a sheet of paper out from the uniform pocket. Here is a list of suitable alternatives that you can find on most GLQ planets to replace the items we confiscated. I'm really sorry about this, the man said, glancing over the list. No worries. Just be glad that you didn't bring any food with you. We had a chef come through once with a whole case of herbs and spices. He dropped a jar of thyme. We had to close the whole terminal until it was decontaminated." The officer stood up and turned to go. "Enjoy your trip." Story number 2. In a no-holds-barred boxing tournament with specially built cyborgs and vat-grown, genetically enhanced homunculi competing, the reigning champion for the past half-decade is an aging flesh and blood boxer. Written by AntiMoneySquandering. The arena was deadly quiet. The only sounds the heavy breathing of the heavily muscled man sweating in the ring and the gentle whir of the mech boxer opposite him. This particular creation was something of a fan favorite and was part of a newer wave of fully robotic fighters as opposed to the more traditional cybernetically enhanced humans. Their creature had eschewed the trend for human-like appearances, and it stood gleaming beneath the spotlight, not a shred of faux skin to be seen. It was a spindly thing, thin of limb and stretched like a child's drawing. That didn't mean that it lacked power, however, and it easily blocked a punch from the fleshy and blood boxer opposite, sending a staggering left hook into his midriff and had him reeling backwards. It paused and raised those two slender arms to the crowd, its expression unchanging. The audience participation simply another tactic coded into its basic AI. The crowd didn't seem to care, baying loudly for the blood to be spilled. The mech boxer lowered its arms and approached the human boxer once more, its guard up. The robotic mind running through possible scenarios and counters. Its creator had implanted it with a great deal of data, including a substantial cache of information from the aging boxer's own fights. They knew his techniques after so long in the ring, his weaknesses. The mech boxer threw a swift left jab, already beginning to duck to their right in anticipation of throwing another thunderous body hook. Their analysis suggested that the boxer would dodge the jab easily and be forced to absorb the heavier hit with his already aching arms. And absorb it he did, but not in the way the robot expected. Terrence the untouched Jefferson had fought every freak and toaster in the league had thrown at him and come out victorious. This mechanical monster was anticipating his every move, already planning 3 steps ahead while he was still reeling from the previous blows. So when that jab came in, Jefferson did a new tactic, throwing out a tried and tested and fighting so quickly without thought, so even he couldn't predict what would happen. He let the jab graze his shoulder, keeping it close and slipping his own right arm around it. He held it in tight, causing the robotic joint to bend inwards at an unnatural angle as the mech boxer's hook smashed into the unprotected left side. He bellowed, using the pain, and slammed his own gloved fist into that joint once, twice, feeling something splinter in the cold metal arm. The robot moved back, but Jefferson followed, staying almost too close to box, throwing wild hooks into the creation's metal sides and feeding the plate there denting under the blows. He paused, throwing up a guard with the left that caught the mech's right straight, already answering with a baffling flurry 5 right straights of his own. He could tell the onslaught was confusing the machine, its program not prepared for him to use inferior and random tactics in this manner. He jumped back, retreating all the way back to the ropes, and now he could hear the crowd again. That fickle beast, now screaming his name and demanding whatever fluid the mech housed to be bled onto the mat. The robot tested out his now injured left arm, beginning to move forward in an automatic rude stance when Jefferson decided to charge it down. The robot reacted well, ducking to the side, but Jefferson ignored the hits despite how much they clearly pained him, now throwing a mad flurry of blows that matched no rhythm or reason. Uppercut, straight, straight, hook, uppercut, uppercut, hook, 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 straight, 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 straight. At the end of his Herculean effort, the entire stadium were on their feet, screaming. Jefferson wavering, the sweat now a waterfall cascading down his bruised and bloodied body. He swayed once, twice, but it was the mech boxer that spasmed, its thin limbs folding as it crumpled, defeated, to the ground. The ref, a robot itself, walked forward stiffly and neglected a count, simply raised Jefferson's arm into the air. The crowd was in a frenzy, bellowing his name, his title, his glory. He looked out through the blackened closing eyes and saw the screaming faces of his wife and child, pushing through the audience to join him. As the words from the announcers echoed out across the arena, he reveled in the emotions that rushed through him, lifting him beyond pain. Humanity wins! End of story. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Bushmaster 177, Henry the Red, Caspar Arnholtz, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Elijah Silvercross, Dragzoon WRE, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.